Good day, everybody. I hope that you are well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 5 English lesson on simple, compound, and complex sentences. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts. Grade 5. And then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of simple, compound, and complex sentences. All right. So in our previous lesson, we went over our different types of sentences, and we specifically or mainly focused on simple as well as compound sentences, right? So today, yes, we are doing simple, compound, and complex sentences, but we are mainly going to focus on compound sentences as well as complex sentences. All right. And our chapter is simple, compound, and complex sentences. Our subject is English language arts. Grade 4. And the lessons that we are going to be focusing on under the chapter of simple, compound, and complex sentences is to create compound sentences. And is the sentences or is a sentence simple, compound, or complex? So that is going to be our focus for today. All right. So when it comes to a compound sentence, right, we said compound sentences consist of two simple sentences that is joined by a conjunction, right? That is a compound sentence. And we said that a simple sentence consists of basically a subject, and it consists of a verb, right? And then we have a compound sentence, right, which consists of two of those simple sentences, and it is joined by a coordinating conjunction. And the coordinating conjunction is either and, but, or so, right? That is a compound sentence. And then we've been asking also what is a complex sentence. And a complex sentence is basically where you have an independent and a dependent, an independent clause as well as a dependent clause, right? That is, it's almost like it's joined together within a specific sentence. And when it comes to the dependent clause, right? Then a dependent clause, it's either joined by a subordinating conjunction or a pronoun. All right, so we spoke about independent clauses and we spoke about dependent clauses. So a clause, right? So firstly, a clause, it is a group of words that contains both a subject as well as a predicate, right? Remember we said a subject is a noun or a noun phrase, and then a predicate is basically the verb, right? So which means that a clause is a group of words that contains, it has both a subject as well as a predicate, right? Then we have independent clauses and we have dependent clauses. So an independent clause, right? It is a complete thought. It's a complete thought that has both subject as well as a predicate in. And an independent clause, it can stand on its own. So it can stand alone as a sentence. Then we have a dependent clause. And a dependent clause is not a complete thought, right? So which means that with a dependent clause, it's either it's missing a subject or it's missing a predicate, right? But it cannot stand on its own. So it cannot stand alone as a sentence, which means that it needs an independent clause in order for it to complete the sentence or to complete the thought. And last time in our previous lesson, I explained that when it comes to independent clauses, right, you need to think of maybe somebody being independent. Somebody that's independent can stand on his or her own. They basically don't need other people in the sense of like helping them out, right? They're doing well on their own. But then we have a dependent clause, like for example, dependent. Now, you as, let's say, you as a child, you are still dependent on your parent, right? Because you still go to school, you don't have a job, right? Which means that you depend on your parent to go to work and to see that your basic needs are taken care of, right? So, which means that you need your parent. So, you need your parent, right? And that is an example of a dependent clause. So but the same with a dependent clause, it cannot stand alone as a sentence. It needs the independent clause, right? So if we look now at this example, the example says the oranges on our tree are ripe. So the oranges on our tree are ripe. So the oranges, right? That is already our subject. And then out it's the oranges on our tree are ripe, right? So the oranges on our tree are ripe. So and that is our predicate, right? Which means that it has a subject as well as a predicate, which and now that makes that sentence to be an independent clause because that clause can stand on its own. So it says the oranges, which is basically the subject, it tells us what it is. So the oranges on the tree, they are ripe. I really don't know. Um I think I won't say that it's not a real word, but I know with certain words we have formal words that you can use formally, and these words that you can use, let's say, informally, right? Um like all right, like maybe the first word that you said, that can maybe be used like as like informally, right? But then all right, which is like the two words, that can basically be considered as, let's say, a word that you can use formally. Because remember, when it comes to um, writing, then we have formal writing and we have informal writing, because based on the type of things that you're writing. If you're writing a formal letter, if you're writing an essay, then it means that you need to use formal language. But then if you are maybe writing to your friend and you are writing in your diary, and then you can basically use informal language. But basically, all right and all right, both of the words that you mentioned, right? Um, it basically means the same thing, right? Which basically just means okay. But like I say, the word all right, which is ALL and right on its own, right? I think that is more accepted when it comes to spelling in the informal writing. So which means that you won't be marked down. They won't see it as a spelling error when you write the word all right. So if you write this word all right, then it is more considered to be more to be written in the formal language, right? But this word all right, it is more considered informally. But both of these two words means okay. All right. So I'm not sure if that makes sense. So I'm not sure if that makes sense. But like I say, you can use both of that languages. You can use both of the words. You can still use both of that words, but it's just that this word, this word, all and right, is considered acceptable, or is accepted more in the formal language standard, whereas this is more informal, right? It is more informal, and it's not actually really considered a standard language, but we can use it. That is why I'm saying, if you were to write either a letter to your friend or you write a diary entry, then I don't think your teacher will mark you down on how you spell these two words, because this is just written informally. Yes, yes. So the that word all right, the second one is basically when you are either chatting to your friend, you're having an informal conversation, right? And then you will use that word. It's like used in informal English, informal language. But as soon as you are writing an essay and you're writing a formal letter or you are writing a let's say you need to apply for a job, right? Or you're writing to the president, for example, then you need to use formal language. And that is when we use this all right, because this is actually formal and it is universally accepted. Exactly. That is correct what you're saying. It is actually, you can say it is a type of slang because usually informal language we use as a form of slang, right? So we would say there's a lot of like, especially in South Africa, we use a lot of slang because of the different languages that we have. We literally have like 12 official languages in our country. So we use a lot of slang words. So all right is also considered almost as a slang, but it is basically an informal language because it's still considered when you are just writing an informal letter or you're having an informal discussion, right? So it's not like it's not accepted at all. So I hope that answers your question. All right. No, no problem. Remember, you can ask any questions. All of you can basically ask any questions, and we will just basically um, answer whatever we can, or I'll answer whatever I can. All right. All right. So we said that a dependent clause, it cannot stand on its own. All right. So when it also, if we look at the next sentence, we say that the first sentence, the oranges on our tree are ripe. So the oranges is our subject, right? And on our tree are ripe. This is our predicate, right? Which means that this sentence is an independent clause. It's an independent sentence, an independent clause, right? And it can stand alone. But now look at the next sentence. It says, after we pick up Kevin from work. It only says after we pick up Kevin from work, which means that this is our predicate, yes. But what is going to happen after we pick up Kevin from work, right? So which means that here is dot dot dot. Something is missing there. So this is a dependent clause. This is not a complete thought and it cannot stand on its own, right? And remember, we said a dependent clause, it cannot stand on its own and it needs an independent clause in order to complete its thought. All right, so once again, we said a simple sentence is made up of a single independent clause. So a simple sentence is made up of a single independent clause, one independent clause, right? That is a complete thought that has a subject and predicate, right? For example, we say Ben and I spent all day relaxing at the pool. If we were to identify our subject, then it would be Ben and I. That is our subjects. We are talking about Ben and I. Spent all day relaxing, which is our predicate, by the pool, or just relaxing by the pool, right? So that is a single independent clause that is a simple sentence, right? And some simple sentences have introductory phrases, but the introductory phrase is part of the predicate. For example, we will say, in the winter, Ben usually wears his heavy coat. So we can basically say Ben usually wears his heavy coat in the winter, or you can just swap it around and use it as an introductory phrase and say, in the winter, Ben usually wears his heavy coat, right? But most likely you won't really find much of the introductory phrases, right? All right. All right, so now we're coming to the compound sentence as well as a complex sentence, right? Okay, so a compound sentence, we said it is made up. So a compound sentence, it is made up of two independent clauses. And remember we said the independent clauses it's one independent clause is a simple sentence, which means that this is now two simple sentences, right? So a compound sentence is made up of two independent clauses that is joined or linked by a coordinating conjunction. And a coordinating conjunction is words such as and, but, or so. Those are coordinating conjunctions. And we use those words and, but, or so to join or to link these two independent clauses together. Once we join those two independent clauses together, it becomes one sentence basically, right? For example, we saw a flash of lightning. That is one independent clause because we is our subject, and then saw a flash of lightning is our predicate, right? And then yeah, it is joined by a comma as well as a coordinating conjunction, right? And then here we have our second sentence, right? Which is seconds later, we heard the rumble of thunder. So we, once again, is our subject. Heard the rumble of thunder, or heard is our predicate. So here we have two independent clauses, two subjects, two predicates, right? And it is joined by a comma as well as a coordinating conjunction, right? And that is how we identify a compound sentence. It is made up of two independent clauses that is joined by a comma as well as a coordinating conjunction. Now we're coming to our complex sentence, right? We're coming to the complex sentence. And a complex sentence, it is made up of an independent clause, right? An independent clause that expresses a complete thought. It has a subject and a predicate, right? It can stand on its own. So complex sentence is made up of an independent clause and a dependent clause. And a dependent clause cannot stand on its own. It's either missing a subject or it is missing a predicate. Right? And the dependent clause that cannot stand on its own, it usually begins with a subordinating conjunction. Remember, in our previous lesson, we went over what a coordinating conjunction is. So here we have a coordinating conjunction, which consists of and, but, or, so. And then we have a subordinating conjunction, right? A subordinating conjunction is, oopsie, it is usually used when we begin as when we the dependent clause that uses a subordinating conjunction before it starts, or at the beginning of a dependent clause we will have a subordinating conjunction. So a subordinating conjunction, it's words such as after, although, as, because, before, if, since, unless, until, when, or while. These words that are underlined now, those are subordinating conjunction, right? And then also someone had asked about correlative conjunctions, and correlative conjunctions, it is also something different. And that is where you use maybe words like both and, either or, neither nor, right? That is correlative conjunctions. All right, so now if we look at a sentence, a complex sentence, right, where it has both an independent clause as well as a dependent clause, it says, if she ever gets the chance, Terry would love to visit the Egyptian pyramid. So if we look at this sentence, I'm not going to underline in red the independent clause, and then in blue, I'm going to underline the dependent clause, right? So if we look at the sentence, at this whole complex sentence, right? It says, if she ever gets the chance, Terry would love to visit the Egyptian pyramids, right? If we look at our second sentence after the comma, it says Terry would love to visit the Egyptian pyramids. Terry is our subject. I'm going to put here S for subject. Okay, subject. And then would like to visit or visit the pyramid, the Egyptian pyramid. That is our predicate, right? So which means that this sentence from Terry would love to visit the Egyptian pyramids, that is our independent clause. This can actually stand on its own if we were to remove that. Now, if we were to identify our subordinating conjunction, this is a subordinating conjunction. If she ever gets the chance, right? And it starts with if. If is a subordinating conjunction. And in order for you, even to make it a bit easier, if you want to identify the dependent and independent clauses, you can then identify a dependent clause by, let's say, if the word starts or if that sentence starts with a subordinating conjunction, right? Or if you just want to make it more easier, you can just identify first what the independent clause is within that sentence, right? Guys, are we on the same page? Do we understand what I'm talking about? Do I have to go over again what a complex and compound sentence is? Or do you have an idea of what a compound and a complex sentence is based on the description? All right. All right, so now let's go to aplusstudents.ca, and we are on aplusstudents.ca. We are going to continue with, first we're going to create a compound sentence, and then we are going to identify simple, compound, and complex sentences. All right. Okay, so we already went over what a compound sentence is, right? We said it is two simple sentences or two independent clauses that is joined by a comma as well as a coordinating conjunction, right? That is a compound sentence. Two simple sentences that is joined by a comma as well as a conjunction. All right, let's go to our test. We are going to create compound sentences now. It says you need to form a compound sentence. Harvard University is the oldest university in. We now need to either choose option 1 or option 2 in order to join it with this, right? So that we can create a compound sentence. It says Harvard University is the oldest university in, do we say in the United States, not the largest one? Or do we say Harvard University is the oldest university in America, comma, and it is one of the most respected? We need to choose the specific option that joins this, let's say, either sentence or simple sentence in order to create a compound sentence. Keeping in mind, to make it more easier, a compound sentence consists of two simple sentences that is joined by a comma as well as a coordinating conjunction. Coordinating conjunction can either be and, but, or so. All right. So if we say Harvard University is the oldest university in America and it is one of the most respected. So well done. The second option is correct. All right. So we're going to create another compound sentence, right? It says Eve will be studying chemistry at Brookfield University. Do we say, but she might take a year off first, or one of the best science schools in the state? So, which one is the correct one? Eve will be studying chemistry at Brookfield University, but she might take a year off first, or do we say Eve will be studying chemistry at Brookfield University, one of the best science schools in the state? Option 1 or option 2, if we join it with that first sentence, and then we will create a compound sentence. All right, and if we choose the correct option, right, we will go with the first option. And the word that joins these two sentences is but. All right, so well done, well done. From form a compound sentence, right? We first going to choose option 1 and option 2 to join the sentence that says can be seen in modern day Egypt. It says the ancient city of Thebes had many temples and they can be seen in modern day Egypt. Or do we use option 2, which is the ruins of many important ancient temples can be seen in modern day Egypt? So we need to choose option 1 or option 2 to join that sentence in order to create or to form a compound sentence. All right, then if we choose the correct one, we will choose the first one, which is the ancient city of Thebes had many temples, comma, and they can be seen in modern day Egypt. All right, so well done, well done. All right, now we're going to say, is the sentence simple? Is it compound? And is it complex, right? And we specifically went over what a simple sentence is, what a compound sentence, as well as what a complex sentence is. So let's go to our test, right? Which is a compound sentence? We're going to choose between these two options, and we're gonna have to say which one is a compound sentence. It says, at the auction, several paintings by famous artists were for sale, including one by Pablo Picasso. Or is it the second option that says, you can wipe up your spill with some paper towels, or you can use the sponge on the floor, on the counter, sorry. We need to say which one is a compound sentence. Is it the first option or the second option? All right, then if we choose the correct option, we can go with the second option, right? Because it says you can wipe up your spill with some paper towels, or a conjunction, you can use the sponge on the counter. All right, great job. Great job. We need to say which one is a simple sentence, right? It just expresses a complete thought, has both subject as well as a predicate, right? So a simple sentence. It says, unless the weather forecast is wrong, you'll probably need an umbrella tomorrow. Or do we say Mr. Jones's afternoon lecture was about art and culture in Germany before World War II? So we need to say, is it the first option or is it the second option that is a simple sentence? All right, then if we choose, okay, it says Mr. Jones's afternoon lecture was about arts and culture in Germany before World War II. So great job. Well done. Well done. We need to say which one is a compound sentence. Compound sentence. It says, I had an old token for my subway fare, but the new system only accepts paper fare cards. Second one says, my fleece hat keeps my head and ears warm on even the coldest winter days. We need to select the correct option that tells us which is a compound sentence. Compound sentence consists of two simple sentences that is joined by a comma as well as a coordinating conjunction, either and, but, or so. All right, and if we choose the correct one, which is a compound sentence, then we'll go to the first one. It says, I had an old token for my subway fare, but the new system only accepts paper fare cards. So well done. We need to say which one is a complex sentence. And remember, a complex sentence, it consists of an independent clause as well as a dependent clause, right? And a dependent clause begins with a subordinating conjunction, right? It says, because the leaves blocked the intense sun, it was cool underneath the forest canopy. Or do we say the American badger, one of the fastest digging animals on the planet, can dig quickly through both soil and concrete? We need to say which one is a complex sentence. So we need to say which one is a complex sentence that consists of an independent clause as well as a dependent clause. A subordinating conjunction usually starts with a complex sentence, sorry, usually starts with a subordinating conjunction. Remember, if a sentence starts with because, then it is a then that is usually a dependent clause that starts with a subordinating conjunction. So it depends on the context in which we use because. But because is a subordinating conjunction. All right. I like I like how you explain it. I like your descriptions. When it comes to because, right? Remember we said it's a subordinating conjunction, right? So because is a subordinating conjunction, we said that the dependent clause usually starts with a subordinating conjunction. So your question was, can a sentence starts with because, right? Um, I think we were told that a sentence cannot start with because usually after you use the word because, it's that is when you almost like you come up with an explanation as to why I said something, right? But I think in this case, right, you can, because it is a dependent clause, a subordinate, it starts with a subordinating conjunction and it's a dependent clause, right? So I think at times because would be grammatically fine to start a sentence with, but just know that it is because of the dependent clause, right? That starts with a subordinating conjunction, and that is why it is kind of okay, but grammatically not really, right? Let's choose the first one and see. All right, so the first one is correct, right? Remember, when it comes to complex sentence, because it is both independent and a dependent clause, right? An independent clause can stand on its own. A dependent clause starts with a subordinating conjunction, right? So, which means that whether the sentence starts with the subordinating conjunction, either because, if, or so on, or it starts with the independent clause. Either way, that's going to be a complex sentence, right? But okay, that is the end now of our lesson on simple, compound, and complex sentences. Thank you very much for your questions, for interacting. You know, I always enjoy that type of lessons. So that is now the end of our lesson on simple, compound, and complex sentences. You guys should have an amazing weekend. Till next time, be safe. Goodbye.